after the trade deadline, we talked about this briefly in a video that I made titled A Final Word on Ilya Kovalchuk. Well, what I thought would have been a pipe dream, what I thought would have been the best case scenario, looks like it could potentially be on the horizon, according to Eric Engels. Today we're talking about Ilya Kovalchuk and how, according to sources, he will be returning to the Montreal Canadiens next season. Now, this puts an absolutely incredible, indomitable smile on my face. I absolutely love the idea of Ilya Kovalchuk coming back to Montreal, and in fact, I haven't met a Habs fan who said that they didn't want to see him at least come back, or the Canadiens at least try to make an attempt at bringing him back. So let's go over the Eric Engels article where he talks about Ilya Kovalchuk. It's actually right there in the title. Montreal Canadiens mailbag. Ilya Kovalchuk, strong bet to return in 2020-2021. Now, if you don't know what Eric Engels' Habs mailbag article is, it's pretty much just a Q&A. The fans ask him questions and he gives the answers, mostly relating to the Montreal Canadiens. That's what the entire article was about over here. And he waited until the very end to showcase a question over here from Zarin Cod. Did Marc Bergevin do his part to get Ilya Kovalchuk to have Montreal at the top of his list come free agency? Then Eric Engels replies, there is no question that he did. Based on my information, it's all but assured Kovalchuk will be back in Montreal come 2020-2021. That said, a lot can happen between now and then, so maybe hold off on the jersey order until he signs. Hey man, I don't care. This is great news. Just hearing this is so much better than not hearing this, and I know it's not guaranteed. I know that. But with everything shaping up the way it is, would you rather hear this than not hear it? Right? Just because it's not set in stone doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to be excited about it. And hey, boy oh boy, if this has any sense of truth, then I'm going to be so excited for what we're gonna have here come next season. Now, if you're a Habs fan and you are like, what the heck, who is Ilya Kovalchuk? Then boy oh boy, you have been living under a rock. Ilya Kovalchuk was the Montreal Canadiens free agent pickup into last season. He was a guy who was drafted first overall all the way back in 2001, and he was an NHL star for years and years. However, he actually exited the NHL and made his way over to the KHL in 2013, leaving a very sour aftertaste to New Jersey Devils fans, the team that had his rights at the time and were playing him like a star. He was good in the KHL, in fact, really good. And coming back into the NHL in 2018, people were expecting a somewhat triumphant re-debut into the National Hockey League. However, with the Los Angeles Kings, that is not what he got. His first season back in the NHL wasn't bad, 34 points in 64 games as a guy who was 36 years old. But his next season with the Los Angeles Kings wasn't great. He wasn't being given the playing time, and as a result, he opted to terminate the contract, which sent him into unrestricted free agency, where the Montreal Canadiens took the opportunity. They signed him at the beginning of 2020. It was a New Year's gift for Habs fans because Montreal was greeted to an absolute blessing in Ilya Kovalchuk. The guy played 22 games with Montreal, getting 13 points, but in those 22 games, he gave this team a spark of life that absolutely was needed in this city. The energy, the presence, the moment he stepped onto the ice at the Bell Center for the first time, the fans were chanting his name. You could tell that everybody was encapsulated by this star player making his debut in Montreal. And boy oh boy was it a great great little stint. He scored a few big goals. He scored one in overtime. That was absolutely crazy. And the community, the fans, they all rallied around this guy, even though he was 36 years old. Who cares? He was still good. He was a very big part in allowing Nick Suzuki to also play his game too. Playing with Suzuki, they provided a really good chemistry to build off of each other, and Kovalchuk will always be cemented into my mind as somebody who helped the transitional period of the Habs in 2020 get a little bit easier. But because he was a free agent who just signed a one-year deal and who was being showcased in a very positive light, fans were like, okay, this guy's gonna get traded, isn't he? And lo and behold, that's what happened. He got traded to the Washington Capitals. It was a very emotional send-off. Habs fans knew it was coming, but overall, it was something that everybody kind of knew benefited both sides. Kovalchuk would go over to a cup contender in the Washington Capitals, play with Alex Ovechkin, and hopefully win himself a Stanley Cup. It's actually really awesome how the Russian connection thrives high in Washington. Kovalchuk, Ovechkin, Orlov, Kuznetsov, just to name a few. And the Montreal Canadiens in return did get themselves a third-round draft pick. Now, that draft pick is something they did not have before 2020. A draft pick for a guy that they signed in the middle of the season, played for 22 games, and then sent away for that draft pick. So, from the Canadiens' point of view long term, it's a very smart move. Capitalizing on free agents, using them, building them up, and then sending them away for assets, but there was a lot more emotion involved in this one, because Kovalchuk immediately, in the post-trade interviews, he was like, yeah, Montreal was really, really good to me. He will never forget his time here, and for the most part, Habs fans wouldn't really forget him either, because in a season where many things went wrong, Kovalchuk was one of the small things in this year that absolutely went right. So, with the way things are right now, and Kovalchuk set to being a free agent once the NHL season concludes, to hear that the Montreal Canadiens are most likely going to re-sign Kovalchuk, it's a big, big boost to my heart, man. It feels so good to know that one of the best parts of the 2020 season could be potentially returning for 2021. If in 2020-2021 the Montreal Canadiens fight off the injury bug, if the Habs play at their best case scenario, Jesperi Kotkaniemi proves that his second year was just a fluke and that he's much better than that. If Nick Suzuki comes back into the NHL as a 50-point player, if Shea Weber plays the whole year, gets 20 goals like we know we honestly can expect from him if he plays, if Jeff Petrie is great, if Domi bounces back, if Drouin is not injured, if everything goes right, and we add an Ilya Kovalchuk, there's going to be some excitement on this team, ladies and gentlemen. Add a Kovalchuk, add an Alexander Romanov, add the Demchenko goaltender that they just signed, and all of a sudden, that stuff that Nikita Sherbak said about the Canadiens not liking Russian players, nah, that's down the drain now, fam. Romanov, Kovy, Demchenko, get these Russians involved in here. Hey, even add Romanov's teammate Marchenko into the mix too, and you have yourself a team that does not look like it's a team that doesn't like Russians like the one that Nikita Sherbak described a few months ago anymore. But hey, maybe I'm just getting a little bit too ahead of myself, spitting, throwing out a little bit more of an idea than I should be in regards to this topic. But the bottom line here is that according to Eric Engels, Ilya Kovalchuk is coming back to Montreal next season if everything goes the way that he has heard things will go. Things can change. Kovy can stay in Washington. Kovy can sign a contract with another team. But, based off of the word that Engels has heard, a legitimate Sportsnet insider, Kovy's coming back, man. And that is so exciting to me. So, Habs fans, comment down below, Ilya Kovalchuk, what did you think about his time here in Montreal the first time? What do you think about him coming back, and where does he slot into the lineup? I know that opens up a whole new can of worms to debate, because if the Canadiens stay healthy, if the Canadiens add some other pieces like the prospects they have, and they have Kovalchuk on top of that, things can get really, really crazy really quickly. I hope you enjoyed this video. Social Troll 99, and bye.